Hi, thank you for being there, all the executives in the industry. We are in the third interview of this new cycle that we have called G&M 101. This is a direct personal and professional interview to top executives of the industry. We have the privilege today to have here with us Hector Fernandez. He's president for the Americas at the Aristocrat, and he's going to talk about his life, but also his career and how the company is working today to prepare new products and to share their products and their work with the industry. I mean, Aristocrat is a manufacturer, and it has a lot to do up to now, and has to support the operators, their clients. So I think we have a lot to talk about. But first, I think it would be interesting, Hector, to start talking about your upbringing.
Sure.
Talk about what are the most important memories you have about your childhood, how were you raised, and how that values of your family have influenced in the person you are today.
Sure. So thank you, Roman, for the opportunity. And I appreciate spending this morning with you. Absolutely. I was born in Guatemala City. I'm an immigrant to the United States. My parents moved to the US when I was about a year old. My parents really believed in education, and they believed in the fact that coming to the US would provide their children a better opportunity in life. And so I grew up in East LA. As an immigrant, you usually tend to move to the poorer parts of the country. And so went to public schools there up until about third grade. And then I was very fortunate. So I was able to get a scholarship to go to these private schools. And so I took 3 buses to go to the private schools. And I think when you think about memorable things in your life, and you think about things that had a big influence, for me, for sure, that was one of the big influence things. The fact that I was an immigrant, the fact that this country enabled me to get this world-class education, the fact that my parents made all of these sacrifices for me to be in the position that I am today, quite frankly. And early on, understanding the value of sacrifice and hard work, taking those 3 buses at 7, 8 years old, being accountable, being responsible, being in a country that, quite frankly, my parents didn't know the language, and understanding the responsibility at a very young age that they had made these personal sacrifices for me to have a better life. And so I think at a very young age, I kind of lived with that power of sacrifice that my parents made. So every day I would wake up, and every day I would say, how do I fully take advantage of these sacrifices? How do I make my parents proud? How do I change my future generations' trajectory? And it was really through the power of education. I really believe in the United States, education is the greatest equalizer. You can come from any part of the world. You could be of any nationality. You could be completely different. And education is the thing that gives you the opportunity, opens the doors to really do whatever you want. The other interesting thing is, my parents really stressed success, but they didn't define what success meant. And they really stressed that success was really driven by happiness, right? Your ability to be happy, and then doing something you believed in. And so success wasn't necessarily defined by money or power or any of those things. And so those things really stayed with me in my life. And so when I woke up every morning, I understood the sacrifice my parents made, and I looked for my own personal success. And what did that mean in my life and the things that were important to me? And obviously at a young age, 7 or 8, that's kind of a burden to carry, and you kind of think about it. And as you get older, you start to understand the opportunities a lot better. And so for sure, like one of the things I always think about is the times I took 3 buses to go to these private schools, and I was so thankful for that opportunity. The other piece is, it was a big adjustment period for me as well. So in the public schools in East LA, I was the top of my class. But as I transitioned to these private schools, I was average. And in fact, I was almost below average because the transition was so big. And so again, once again, I had to learn, hey, you have to wake up every single morning and take full advantage of the opportunity. And one of the other second things that stick to me in my mind is in eighth grade. So I started going to the private schools in fourth grade. In eighth grade, when I graduated middle school, because the school was from kindergarten to eighth grade, I won Most Improved Student of the Year. And that's probably one of my most memorable, proudest awards. I didn't even win Best Student. I didn't win valedictorian or any of that. I just won Most Improved Student of the Year. And it was really, that really stuck with me because it showed me, hey, when you come into a new situation, you're not going to be the best. There's no doubt about that. But if you are willing to put in the work, wake up early, make the sacrifices, you can, get to a much higher place. And those are some of the kind of two things that really stuck to me from my childhood that really made me who I am today.
Okay, it's very interesting. I was thinking about your personal characteristics. You were very determined. You had the ability to adapt to a different situation, and you have a clear goal. Is that right? I mean, there are like three elements of what you have told here recently that I think they are part of your personality. Is that right?
Yeah, it's, and I think because of my background, so I'm a finance person. I spent the majority of my career in finance, and at an early age, I was always very fortunate to have very strong mentors that surrounded me. Because my parents didn't go to college, my parents didn't have professional jobs, and so I needed to seek out other people that had kind of paved the road, right? And I've been very fortunate to have these mentors. And one of the things I learned was set a goal, put a flag on a hill, define where you want to go, and then make all of the sacrifices to get there. And once you get there, move the flag again for yourself, right? And I think that singular focus, and kind of tying it back to COVID-19 throughout this period, the team has been so successful in some of the things we've been able to do at Aristocrat. And I attribute that really to focus, because given all of the uncertainty, given all the things that were happening, we really said, what is the one thing we're going to go and be focused on? What is the one thing we're going to be myopically obsessed with and passionate about? And then how are we going to measure it? And I think that for us unlocked this magical way of working where we allowed all of the normal distractions that you have while running a business to kind of fade away to the background because we were myopically focused on one goal.
As an Hispanic, as an immigrant, do you think you have fulfilled your American dream? I mean, do you think you have achieved success in terms of the characteristic you mentioned about your personality? When you look back and when you look now, your position as leader of a big, important company, do you think you have achieved your goal?
So the way I defined achieving my goal is really two things. Number one is my mom proud of me, because again, she made all of these. She left her country at 23 years old with 3 small kids, and she's proud of me. So yes, that's one element of it. So I have absolutely achieved that goal, and she's not proud of me because of the title or the financial rewards or any of that. She's proud of me because she knows all the sacrifices in the journey. And then the second thing I would say is really, every morning I wake up and I really do it for our people, so our employees. I do this for our customers. I do this for our business. But most importantly, I do this for my family. And when I reflect on kind of have I achieved success there, I think when you're a parent, it's always a work in progress. So my whole goal in life is to raise 2 honest, good human beings that go off and do good in the world. And so, I think that story still remains to, still being written as we speak now. but so far all indications are very, very positive. And so, my kids get to experience and grow up in a different lifestyle than I got to experience or grow up. But I still want them to be grounded. I still want them to understand the importance of hard work. And I still want them to never lose sight of the fact that everyone is equal, no matter what position they have, no matter what title they have, no matter what financial rewards they have. And so far, I would say it's been successful, but it's always a work in progress.
And is the idea also to transmit those values you receive to your children too, from generation to generation, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's an importance of the values and the heritage that I want to make sure never gets lost. So one of the things that my wife and I try to do is really hold on to some of those traditions. So I'll give you an example. My mom taught me how to make Guatemalan tamales. Um, I have two older sisters, and I'm the youngest. I'm the only boy in the family, and she taught us how to make Guatemalan tamales, and it's a tradition that I've carried on, and I've taught my now 13-year-old daughter how to make them as well. We've taken the kids back to Guatemala a few times to understand, what part of their heritage is like, but also to understand that they have a very privileged life relative to, some other circumstances. And it's really important to never lose sight of that, because that actually focuses you on always giving back, and not ever letting any success whatsoever kind of go to your head. Because I think being humble and staying grounded is one of those things that is a value my mom always taught me, and it's something that I never want to lose.
About being humble, one question we always make to top executives is how do they manage the egos, the personalities, how can they maintain the stress down, how they can deal with pressure, how they can transmit all the clear ideas they had to their collaborators, and how can they balance their egos and their personalities to do the best for the team. What's your experience in that element?
Yeah, I think again, I think so much of who you become is so much of your upbringing, right? I think if my mom ever saw me demonstrating a high ego or any of that, she wouldn't be proud of me. And I think about that a lot. And so I recognize that this success was not an individually driven outcome. It was a combination of lots of people making sacrifices, and it was a combination of lots of people helping me on this journey. And when I think about Aristocrat and where we are today, it's really about the power of the team. It isn't about one individual. The reason the success has been so great is because of the collaborative effort and the teamwork involved. The second you start believing that it's about you, you've lost the game, because most human beings don't want to work for someone that believes it's all about them. Most human beings want to work or be on a team where their views and their contributions are valued. And that's the magic. The magic is not individual. Individuals rarely can do anything great. It's really about unlocking that collective brilliance, that power in diversity of thought and opinion, that leads to great outcomes. And so I never lose sight of that. I wake up every morning and I understand that I'm one human being, and the power really is on the broader team. As far as it comes to de-stressing and managing stress, it's always tough. There is no, I've never found an easy answer. And I think the reason why that is, work-life balance means something different for everyone. Success means something different for everyone. What is the final outcome or destination of your journey means something different for everyone. And therefore, how people are able to disconnect and enjoy life and do those things just means something for everyone. For me personally, I'm a pretty simple human being. I really have two things in life. That's my work and career, and my passion for trying to do the right things with the team. And then it's my family. And people always ask me like, what are your hobbies? And look, I enjoy watching sports. Like I'm a big sports fanatic, but I don't really play golf. I don't do, I don't do a lot of things that I deem takes significant time away from my family, because work itself is already pretty demanding and, the time consuming. So I really, on my downtime, I focus on time with my family. We swim, we hang out, I take my 10-year-old mountain biking. I hang out with my wife, and it has a lot to do with kind of my upbringing as a child. And that's kind of the role model that I saw, was really my mom. She worked and she hung out with us, and she dedicated special time with us. And I see the power that can bring to future generations, right? If you're engaged with your children and you spend quality time, and you role model behavior, because kids don't do what you say, kids do what they see you do. And I think that that's really important.
What important issue about recent COVID crisis is that it obliged lots of executives to share more time with their families. So, I mean, they are always traveling around the world. They have lots of things to do in the office. I mean, they barely see their families, maybe just 1 minute in the night and in the early morning, and then they have to go to work. And now this crisis has changed everything. So how much you have enjoyed the time spending with your family, and at the same time, how did you manage to separate some time for your work and for focusing on the daily job you have with your company?
It's a funny question, because I'll answer it how my wife would answer it, which is, hey, you're working from home, but we still see you the same amount of time as we did before. And that's because during this kind of COVID crisis, despite the fact that we all went working from home, but we were actually working really long hours, and there was a blurring between weekdays and weekends. And that really shows the commitment of a team, right? When you've built a great team with a singular focus, they're going to rally against that focus, and so to go execute against that focus. And so, ironically enough, I was actually working longer hours than I was pre-COVID, but I wasn't traveling. So I was, during the week, we probably had about the same amount of time. But then on the weekends, we had a bit more time because I wasn't on the road. And one of the things that I actually started doing again, that I hadn't done in a while because of just how hectic the schedule was I started cooking again. My mom was all about equality from a gender. So everything that she taught my sister how to do, she taught me how to do. And so I really enjoy cooking. And we started to designate like nights of actual like themes, right? So Tuesday was taco night, and Thursday was pasta night, and Friday was teppanyaki night. And I started to do that with my 13-year-old. So on teppanyaki night, she was my assistant while we made teppanyaki in the backyard. And so it just, from that standpoint, it has been nice to not spend so many nights away from my house and my family. But the flip side to that is, it's hard to also find separation between your personal life and work life when you don't leave the house. And I think that's been a struggle for a lot of people around the world. Um, the joke was that I was constantly getting kicked out of different parts of my house. My 13-year-old would come around and be like, "No, Dad, I want to sit here today," and so I'd get kicked out of there. And I remember one time I was in a one-on-one, and I ended up in my front yard sitting on the grass on the video, because the combination of my kids had kicked me out of all the parts of the house, and I was kind of just left to go into the front yard. But those are despite the stress of coronavirus, despite all of the uncertainty it created, those are kind of the special memories that 10 years from now you'll look back and say, man, can you remember all that time we got to spend with each other? Do you remember all the meals we got to make? And for me, in my personal life, it comes at a special time with my kids, because they're 13 and 10. And so they will have those memories and that recollection, and it further strengthens our bond. Because when my daughter goes to college in 5 years, I want to make sure that she always wants to come back and hang out with me. And I think that's a huge, huge part of my life that I want to make sure I never lose. And she always wants to kind of be around, us. So.
Well, it's nice to hear that, Hector, really, to know that you have a quality time with your family. Also considering the big issues you have to solve. I mean, when I try to imagine and to walk in your shoes maybe and try to understand how hard it might have been for a manufacturer to reorganize everything, you have, I mean, I imagine you have had a budget that you have also designated maybe in late 2019, and you have everything planned and organized for this year, and then suddenly everything had to change. You have to reorganize the budget and the product presentation and the presentation of products in different shows, and you have to be aware of what your clients needed and what the operators needed. And I mean, you have lots of job to do. How did you manage to work in the inner side of your company and also with the clients in the outside?
Yeah, no, it happened, and it happened fast. The things again, I'm a big believer in keeping things simple and driving to singular focus. And human beings, science has shown that can really only digest about 3 things at a time. So you'll find a lot of my examples are really just 3 things. Early in the whole COVID crisis, we really did 3 things. We, number 1, tried to understand the impact to the business. And we used lots of different analogs, whether it was 9/11 or the global recession, to try to understand what was the impact to the business going to be in the short term, and what was the potential impact to the business in the long term. So we did that. The second thing we did is we said, based on that thinking, what are some of the short-term decisions, tough decisions that we have to take in order to protect the company's longevity, and therefore the longevity and protect our employees. And then the third thing we focused on was, okay, now that we know, or we have at least some assumptions around the potential impact, we at least have some assumptions around what are some of the short-term decisions we have to make. Now let's focus on what a recovery looks like. And we did all 3 of those things in parallel. And the thing that was really important about that is a lot of companies tend to focus on, hey, what is the impact of this event, and what are the decisions we have to make? But it's very difficult to then also focus the team on, and what are we going to do about it, kind of post it. But we did that at Aristocrat, and we were able to develop a very comprehensive strategy. We called it the Aristocrat Assist, and commercial tactics that enabled us to protect the business and be partners to our customers. And so we said we're going to do those 3 things, and then we said, okay, that's the right focus. How are we going to do those 3 things? What's the lens or the decisions that we're going to use to make those to execute on those 3 things? And we boiled it down to 3 things. We said we're going to focus on our people, we're going to focus on our customers, and we're going to focus on protecting the long-term viability of this business. And we're going to do it in that order. So first, we're going to make sure we're transparent, we over-communicate, we're fair, that people hear me talk one-on-one in town halls or small coffee chats, and just be fully transparent about the situation and some of the unknowns. So that focus on our people actually made it so when we were thinking about our customers, our people were so thankful for some of the transparent things that we did, that they went above and beyond with our customers. And that was, like you always hear people talk about, it's all about your people, it's all about your employees. But very rarely do you get to see that cycle so constrained and see it actually validated. Normally you do all the right things for months and months and months, and it's a lagging indicator, and then your customers are happy. But given the coronavirus and the events, it was really like we did that and we immediately saw results with our customers. The other thing we did for our customers is, instead of us just thinking about what's good for us as a business, we went out and talked to our customers and said, what are you going to need? What are some of the things that that you are worried about? How can we help? And the other thing we did is we said, how can we help with no strings attached? So as we went to the market and talked to customers and engaged, it was really all about how do we help them reopen casinos, for example, or how do we help them weather the storm, knowing that we were dealing with similar issues with a slightly different lens. And that really, those two myopic focuses really almost are the equation for, it's like the plus plus equals the people plus the customers really equals the longevity of the business. And so we didn't really focus on the P&L, which is what a lot of companies start with. A lot of companies would have started with what's the P&L, and therefore, based on the P&L, what are the outcomes we need to do with our people and our customers? We actually did it the opposite way. And I think it's hard to do it that way, and it takes buy-in from the executives and the board to have that approach. But I think that really, really helped us focus on the things that mattered, focus on the things that we could control. And so far, we just ran an employee survey recently, and we scored better than pre-COVID, which is a lot to say given all of the uncertainty and some of the tough decisions we had to make.
Yes, and just starting to make a balance and to finish the interview, and thanking you again for your participation. I was thinking about two issues that there are two ideas, but at the same time, two confirmations of what we have learned from this COVID situation. One is that people really love to gambling, really love to be entertained. When this possibility to be entertained is taken away from them, they really suffer that. They of course, there are the possibility of online gaming, but I mean, the idea of going to a casino and enjoying and playing and the mood, it's something they really need. That's one thing. The other thing is how unified the industry is. I mean, it might be something very simple to understand, but this situation, I think, showed all of us, not only in the Americas, but in all the world, that the industry is fighting for their rights, for their recognition, and is united. So thinking about this optimistic point of view, and thinking about the future, maybe next 6 months and the next year, what are what is your personal analysis on this and on the future of the industry on the second half of the year and the next year too?
Yeah, I mean, I always come back down to people. Like, so people, the human element, by definition, are social creatures. We all are. We all crave social interaction. I think one of the, I did a lot of Zoom calls with a lot of my friends. Actually, it was an interesting thing because a lot of friends that I maybe hadn't talked to as much, we interacted via Zoom. And I think the hardest part, I was fortunate. I was quarantined essentially with my 2 kids and my wife. But I have some single friends that quarantined alone, and listening to them and hearing them talk, you start to understand the human element. And the human element is really about being social, having interactions, having balance in life, right? And I think balance in life is really important. And so when I think about what this industry does for people, it's really the adult entertainment, right? And as you walk through casino floors as they opened up, you see the joy of people playing, you see the joy of people interacting, and there's a real social aspect to that. And there's almost this, kind of escape from reality, right? You get to go do something and not worry about, driving your kids to school the next day or whatever the case is, kind of the routine things in life. And so I think as I think about this industry and I think about what does the future hold, we remain cautiously optimistic. We believe that this industry is strong and here to stay. And, obviously online things will emerge, and you saw some of the spikes in online gaming and things like that. But at the end of the day, the fundamentals for thousands and thousands of years, humans are social creatures, and humans want to interact with each other, and humans want to be out. And there's no better lesson than when you're quarantined, for 100+ days, and you're not leaving your house, no matter how much you love your house, no matter how much you love your family. there is this element of the ability to interact with others that I think during this crisis really reminded us that, right? The human spirit is strong, and humans want to be around other humans. Humans want to help other humans. And I think you saw it in the industry where, it's competitive like any other industry. And obviously we all have our own P&Ls we have to worry about, and kind of our own expectations we have to match. But at the end of the day, we're all human beings, and we were all going through a similar situation with a lot of uncertainty. And I think that really allowed us to rally together and say, how do we help each other? The thing I always tell customers is, I don't want to be a vendor. I don't want to be a manufacturer. I want to be a strategic partner. I want to be a strategic partner that's focused on long-term success for both of us. It isn't just about one of us winning and one of us losing. That's not long. That doesn't last very long. It's really about, how do we partner together? How do we try to make the best decisions possible to honestly provide the best entertainment to our players? And when you could rally your brain around some of those simple kind of beliefs and strategies, the road ahead actually becomes a lot clearer. When you try to solve 20, 30, 40 things, which is very typical in corporate life, right? You tend to have a long list, 30, 40 things. You lose sight of what the destination is. You lose sight of what the road ahead of you is, and you become distracted by things that actually don't matter. And so that's, tying it back to what I was saying earlier. I think keeping things simple is one of the key successes to life, not only personal but also professional. Keeping things simple, setting clear guardrails and guidelines, and then driving accountability. And I think if you could do those three things, people can be successful in most industries.
Well, Hector Fernandez, President for the Americas of the Aristocrat, thank you very much for your inspiring words. Thank you very much for sharing your story, your life story, your ideas, your values with us. We have learned a lot. I guess all the executives that are on the other side of the screen will also learn a lot about your story, about Aristocrat, about the strategies, and have a positive point of view about what's going to happen next for the industry in general. So thank you, and the Aristocrat team, for your time.
Thank you, Roman, for your time this morning as well. I really enjoyed this. Have a great day.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.